wondered how people got from here to Seattle?
You'd probably get on a plane and get there in a few hours. Super easy, right? But 200 years ago, you would have ridden on a covered wagon, which would have taken months, and it was far from easy. It was incredibly dangerous. There were unfriendly natives, wild animals, endless plains, mountains, and unbearable weather conditions. It was also extremely expensive.
But all that changed was one man from Minneapolis, from Twin Cities. That man was James J. Hill, and he had a dream. His dream started on this bridge. Hill's dream started on this bridge behind me. Today, in 2012, it is a walking bridge, but in 1886 it was a train bridge that would soon connect Minneapolis to Seattle.
Hill's route had many historic firsts. It was one of the first routes between the East and the West and was thought to be impossible. It created a critical new trading route with Asia. It also created hundreds of new towns in the Northwest region. It also built the longest tunnel in North America and established one of the greatest national parks. James J. Hill wanted to trade with Asia, but at that time you had to send your goods by ship around the tip of South America and then on to Asia. His idea was to use a high-speed train to transport his goods across the country in a few days and then on to Asia. This is the story of Hill's dream to create a transcontinental railway that would connect the Northwest to the East. This wouldn't be easy because laying down tracks was very difficult. First, the roustabouts cleared all the trees. Then, they had mules pull the scrapers to show where the tracks would go. Next, a 500-pound rail came by flat car or horse-pulled wagon. 5 men then picked up the rail and ran it to where it should be dropped into place. Next, men put notched blocks between the rails to ensure they are 48.5 inches wide. Lastly, the spike men would drive their spikes into the rail. It was 30 spikes per rail and 3 swings per spike. Hill used all the best materials. He used hardwood for the ties and stone bridges. Unlike the Transcontinental Railroad, he didn't cut corners. So, when a few years later, while the Transcontinental had to rebuild, Hill's railroad was still going strong. This is Hill's completed dream, a route from Chicago all the way to Seattle. But the hardships of his route was yet to come. Hill would have to conquer the Cascade and Rocky Mountains, and many people said it wouldn't be done. One of the major hardships about building the route was to cross the mountain. How do you get the track from the lower plains here up the mountain to the upper plains? A temporary fix that Great Northern found was to use switchbacks, where they go like this, and then the train would back up and go up here, and then back up, and then go up here, and then back up, and then go up here, and then we're done. Switchbacks weren't a perfect fix though. They added a lot of length to the track, and in the wintertime when there could be a ton of snow on the tracks, you still had to shovel those out by hand. But Hill didn't care. He was going to complete his dream. Since the switchbacks were only a temporary fix, Hill needed to find a permanent route to cross the Rockies. So his scouts found Marias Pass, which is on the edge of some of the most beautiful land in the country. Marias Pass is on the edge of Glacier National Park, which Hill founded and operated until the National Park Service took it over. Hill also needed a permanent route to cross the Cascades, and his scouts came through again. This time they found Stevens Pass. With a manageable grade, but only if you build a 2.8-mile long tunnel. This tunnel became known as the Cascade Tunnel, and soon after building it, Hill reached Seattle. And then came the question, what should we call this route? They decided to name it after Hill, aka the Empire Builder, hence the name Route of the Empire Builder. Everyone thought that they were done, but they were wrong. The route had a dangerous flaw, but it would take a true disaster for them to find out what that flaw was. On February 19, 1910, a blizzard strands 2 trains just outside the Cascade Tunnel, but due to an insufficient coal supply, they cannot run the plows, so the tracks have to be shoveled by hand. Soon after this, the workers fall behind the pace set by the falling snow, and the tracks are under 40 feet of snow. On February 29th, there was a lightning storm that went on through the night. Then, on March 1st, 1:42 a.m., while about 125 people were sleeping, a wall of snow came barreling toward the trains. The two trains were swept 150 feet into Ty Creek below. Most of the 23 survivors were injured and sent to Wenatchee for medical treatment, while the dead were sent to Everett or Seattle. This disaster is called the Wellington Train Disaster. Because of this disaster, the Great Northern Railway added snow sheds to the route to protect the trains. They also changed the route to avoid spots on the route with the highest risk of avalanches. This new route involved an 8-mile-long tunnel. The tunnel is the longest tunnel in North America. The old route is now a hiking trail called the Iron Goat Trail and is believed to be haunted by the people who died there. Many people visit the route with special equipment to see if they can talk to those ghosts.
During midsummer of 1893, Seattle and the East were connected by regular service on the route of the Empire Builder. This route revolutionized the Northwest and Northern Midwest. Citizens reacted by forming towns along the tracks. The route of the Empire Builder developed the Northwest and Northern Midwest.
The route impacted this region so much because towns were built every 100 miles along the tracks. The towns were built so close to each other because at the beginning all the engines were steam engines, and steam engines needed to fill up with water and fuel about every 80 to 100 miles. They also used about 33 pounds of coal every mile if traveling at 70 miles per hour. All the rods and connecting arms had to be re-greased every 100 miles too. The trains also had to stop for food, water. They may have had to fix things that were broken, and they also would have had to change engineers at a while. But that isn't all the route did. The route made the necessary link between farmers in the west and markets in the east. This route created industry too, because before the route there was no way to get goods to the east. Now Idaho can ship potatoes, Montana can ship newly discovered oil, and now that there was lots of towns and industry, people moved to this region. And you could now hop on a train and get to Seattle in a day or two. People started moving west because they knew that they were not cut off from the world. The route of the Empire Builder also revolutionized the trade with Asia. Now, anything that came into the United States from maybe Europe or came to the west from the east could go on a train all the way to Seattle and then all the way to Asia. This expanded our places to trade things to tremendously, and these are only a few of the things that the route of the Empire Builder revolutionized. The route of the Empire Builder had many impacts. One of the short-term ones was the jobs the route created. Some of the jobs that were needed were building the tracks, building the stations, building the bridges on the route, managers to run the stations, car loaders, engineers, and track maintainers. They also need people to fill the water tanks and where they hold the coal. They also needed people to grow or make the goods that the route shipped. This route also needed people to run the businesses in the town.
So, why should you remember the route of the Empire Builder? What's so important about it? Well, the route of the Empire Builder built the Northwest region. Seattle wouldn't be the metropolis it is today without it, and those Northwest states wouldn't be as developed as they are now. So, the next time you cross a railroad track, remember the route of the Empire Builder and how it connected the country.